everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into several new products that I have picked up recently, and we're going to put it all into one video. Sometimes there's so much makeup coming out that I know that you guys are interested and you want to know my thoughts. So sometimes it's easier to just kind of combine them all into one video. So for your convenience, I will leave timestamps in the description box down below. If there's a specific product that you came to this video to find out about, you can go directly there, see me apply it. And then of course, in my final thoughts, I get into each one of the products that I used in today's video. We have the new Wayne Goss Bronzer and Contour Duos. Beautylish and Wayne Goss was kind enough to send me all three of the palettes. So I'm going to apply them on the skin, of course, give you my full thoughts on them. Lots and lots of swatches and comparisons so you guys can see what the shades are compared to some of the other bronzers that I have in my collection. These will launch Wednesday, tomorrow, March 31st. At 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys were interested in picking these up, set your alarms. They will be available at 10 a.m. PST. And then I'm going to be talking about the new By Terry Hydra Concealer. I've had this for a while, but I'm finally talking about it in a video. And of course, the new Gucci powder. This is called the Beauty Powder. We're going to get into this. And then we're going to be getting into the Armani Luminous Silk Powder. This just launched on the Sephora website. The By Terry Blush Palette. I know, she smells divine. And I got these bougie, expensive lipsticks from Jimmy Choo. And I could knock you out with these. These are so heavy. And they're $65. They're very expensive. These are new shades in the Seductive collection, and I got two shades. I'm gonna share my thoughts on them. So that's what we're doing in today's video. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into me testing out and playing with all these products, applying them on the skin, giving you my thoughts as I'm applying them. And then of course we will jump into the swatches and comparisons. You know I like to do a lot of swatches and comparisons. I think it's very, very important for you, the audience, to be able to know if these tones will work for you or if there's products that you might have already in your collection. Even though it takes a long time to do the swatches and comparisons, I think they're extremely important for the viewer to have. So we will get into those, and then of course we will jump into my final thoughts. So let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. Okay, let's start playing with these new products, and I've already put on my foundation and stuff just because I'm going to be testing out new powders and I want to wear it with a foundation that I am very familiar with. So I'm actually wearing, where is she? I'm wearing the new KVD Balm. I recently reviewed this. Let's move on to this. Now, I recently did a full face of testing new makeup, and I never uploaded that video. I never got around to it. I was so busy. You guys, I can't even describe to you how busy my life's been the last 2 weeks. It has been absolutely cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So never got around to editing that video, but I wanted to show you guys the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Concealer. I bought this in the shade 400 Medium. This actually works really good for my skin tone. This is really beautiful, and I was very surprised by it because personally, I have not had the best experience with the hyaluronic foundation, the powder, the pressed powder. It's just not been products. I've tried them several times and I just have not loved them. But this concealer, surprisingly, very beautiful. So the thing I will say, I would say maybe the only negative is that when you click it, so it's got a gorgeous brush on it, by the way. The brush feels like just, oh, it's so soft on the under eye. When you click it into there, it puts a lot of concealer in the tip. That, in my opinion, is the only negative. I have found a way to just push it a tiny bit and a little bit will come out. So what I do is I put what's in here on both of my eyes and spread it out because it's a lot. That is my only negative when it comes to this concealer, is that just a lot comes out when you click that button. But I have been able to click it and not click as much out. But the brush feels so good on the under eye. This, I would say, is pretty close to my skin tone as far as the shade goes. You guys know I don't like my concealer to be super light, so this just really melts into my skin so beautifully. It is a gorgeous concealer. so pretty. I would say I get a pretty decent medium coverage. I don't know that it's a full coverage, but it's a medium. And it does dry down to a very soft matte finish, but it still stays hydrated. I don't feel like it exaggerates my under eyes in any way. The only thing that I have to do is, you know, just kind of go under it and kind of tap and make sure that I've picked up any extra that's sitting in the wrinkles. But it dries and kind of sets down once you spread it out. But this brush is heavenly, and the product itself is really, really beautiful. So the concealer is a win. I really like the concealer. Wayne Goss and Beautylish was kind enough to send me the 3 new bronzer contour duos from Wayne Goss. I am very grateful to receive these in PR. So grateful. Like, this was just so nice of them to send this to me. Even though these were sent to me in PR, you guys know I will always keep it real. And even though I really love Wayne, he's a very sweet, sweet person, but I always like to keep things very real here. So this is the light gold. So this is the bronze and this is the sculpt. So yeah, so this is for like light, medium skin. These are really soft though. Very, very soft, powdery textures. And of course I will swatch these next to a bunch of different products. But this looks really pearl colored. Obviously I'm not going to be able to wear this light palette, which is the light gold. So then we have the satin bronze, which is a bronze glow and medium taupe. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to wear this one either. I don't know. We'll see. This is turning a little gray on me because I am more warm toned. Then we also have the deep copper palette. And this is the copper glow, and then we have the deep taupe. So this is the darker palette, and this is the medium palette. And I kind of feel like the darker palette might be better for me and my skin tone because this contour in the medium, which is the satin bronze, this is a little bit too gray for my skin. So I'm thinking that this might be the palette for me, as long as this is a very buildable formula, because you always want your bronzers and contour products to be buildable. You don't want them to be super, super pigmented, but you want them to be buildable, but as you're building them, not get muddy. So there's kind of that, you know, common ground, kind of where you can know if it's a bad product or not. These feel extremely soft and so beautiful. So I feel like for me personally, this deep copper is going to be better for me. I'm going to go in with a light hand because I can already tell that this has a lot of pigment, right? Like, even just swatching it, this has a lot of pigment. If this wasn't so gray, I think it would be fine, but it's just too gray for me. I mean, the gray kind of matches my gray little jumper I have on. So, you know, I have to be careful with the undertone. Now, you guys have heard me say this plenty of times. I am the world's worst when it comes to powder contour. I have the hardest time with powder contour. I never can get it to blend. It always looks muddy on my skin, and I'm not a huge fan of powder contour. It's a very uncomfortable thing for me. I am so much more comfortable with a cream contour because I can blend it out, and if I get too much, I can go in with my sponge and kind of, you know, push it into the skin, and it can kind of hide the mistakes of me not having like the best artist hands, right? I struggle with powder contour, but I am still excited to try this. Let's go in with the Smooth Buffer from Sonia G. And I'm going to grab the contour in the deep copper. Let's just see what it will look like. Okay, so that's one little dip, but it's very blendable and very easy to kind of buff out. See what this color will look like. See how it's more gray, and it just doesn't really, this is the medium palette, by the way. Now, the formula blends really beautifully. Yeah, it turned a little gray, and it's just because it's not my color, right? It's just not the perfect color for my skin tone personally. Now I'm gonna go in to the bronzer, and this shade looks very familiar to me. So this is a Charlotte Tilbury in shade Tan. And this is the bronzer in this deep copper palette. So it's definitely got more of a radiance. Obviously, the Charlotte Tilbury has more of that matte finish. So I am very curious. So let's go ahead and apply this. Okay, so let's just go over. Ooh, that is pretty, right? Okay, so even though I was feeling very insecure about that contour, and I was worried that I just did not do a very good job blending it, going over top of it with that bronzer, so pretty. Just a beautiful bronzer. And it's a very, very buildable, you guys. Like, I am... Okay, when I say I'm dipping into this lightly, I mean I'm like this. Okay, it's very pigmented because of the depths of the shade, right? So the shade is a little darker, right? Probably a little bit too dark for my skin tone, but these are the right undertones, so I'm gonna make this work. So for me, this is just blending beautifully, and I can tell that this is a very buildable bronzer, and I mean, I'm loving it. Now, I don't know that I'll probably ever use the contour because we just got done having that conversation. Me and powder contour are just, we're just not meant to be friends, y'all. I'm sorry. We're just not meant to be friends. But this is applying just beautifully. I mean, it is a very pretty bronzer. We're gonna go into this palette. So I've already contoured. I'll use the clean side. I feel like the bronzer on this side is a little bit softer on my skin. I love the way this side looks. This bronzer is stunning. And I mean, it looks so beautiful. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but right here, I can see this gray spot. And again, that's kind of what gray does on my warm skin. But I think this side looks a little bit more flattering, a little bit more soft than this side. So it's almost like I need the contour from the darker palette and the bronzer from the medium palette. This just really blended into the skin, and I have such a beautiful radiance on this side. I mean, you can see the radiance. So let's move on to this new CC Blush Brightening palette from by Terry. This smells so good. I can't... Normally, I like I mentioned in my Buyer Brows video, normally I don't like the scent of roses, but there's something about the way that By Terry incorporates the roses. Just, it smells so good. We're gonna use this beautiful little blush palette today. I am kind of excited about it. This is the first palette I've ever bought from her, but look how beautiful these are. The only reason why I bought it is because I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this. I fell so hard for this brightening blush. You guys, it's the prettiest look of blush I've ever used in my life. I love it so much. But I did not realize that this was a limited edition thing, right? So you can't get it anymore, which was such a bummer. So when I saw that she was creating a palette, I was like, ooh, I want to try it. So these are so, so beautiful. And we're going to use the two blushes and just play. I'm excited. So I'm going to go into the light pink one and let's see what this looks like. That's pretty, right? So let's go in with this one. Now we got some color shit skis. Oh, shit. I'm going to have to powder the hell out of that. But look at the radiance it gives the skin. Oh, it's so pretty, right? So here's the thing. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have got to powder. Look at that. It is so much blush, but it is so damn beautiful. Whew. Okay. The light pink one just doesn't really do much for my skin. Let's go in for a second dip and see if we can kind of build it up. Yeah, it's just a tad bit too light. So I'm going to attempt to grab just a tiny bit here of the darker pink and we're just going to be very rosy today. I mean, why not? Okay, I need to powder. I need to powder. Holy schmoxies, you guys. Okay, that blush, I know it went a little bit overboard. Let's talk about the two powders that I've picked up. Talk about this powder from Gucci. I love the bronzer. The bronzer is my favorite, and there's several reasons why I love this bronzer. Number one, it has such a soft, buttery texture, but number two, the shade is perfect for me. I love a warm, glowy type of bronzer, and this just gives me life. In fact, I reached for this over the Charlotte Tilbury just because of the shade. I prefer a warm bronzer, so I love this because of the warmth. I'm going to use the sponge. By the way, I picked this up in the shade 5, which 5 is medium neutral. Ooh, you guys, did you see how that just like, look at that. Right? Okay, so this puff thing really pushes the powder into the pores, and it really looks beautiful. It does. I like the powder puff thing. Like, I don't know that I'd want to use this all over my face, only because I think it would take too long. I like to just, plus I like the brush to kind of buff. So I'm going to grab my brush, and I'm going to grab the, I mean, you can see the difference. Like, this is no powder. So I'm going to grab a little bit of powder and just kind of buff it all over. It like brightened up the skin on this side. I mean, surely you can see that. It just really brightened things up, but the powder itself is very, very soft and not thick at all. This is like the perfect powder for people who don't love powder. It's really beautiful. Let's go into this powder. I have the Luminous Silk Glow Fusion Powder. I picked this up in the shade number 4, and this is what it looks like. It's from Giorgio Armani, and this looks more like a highlighter to me. Okay, so this is a glow setting powder. You guys, this looks like a highlighter, and this is expensive. This was $64. I bought this in the shade 4, which shade 4 is light to medium with a golden undertone. I mean, you can kind of see as you blend it out, it kind of, I don't know, you guys. I don't know that I would want to use this as an all-over powder, but we'll see what it does. This powder comes with this little brush, which the brush feels, oh, the brush feels like silk. I don't know what the hell it is, but it is a fancy little brush. I'm just going to kind of pick some up here and just sweep it along the face. I don't like this for powder. Now let's go in with a brush. I didn't get a chance to brush it. So let's go in with a brush and see if buffing this will make a difference. It is a little bit glowy. So for those who like a glowy, like radiant type of powder. Okay, I'm gonna set my face with some setting spray. Let's talk about the powders. First of all, this Luminous Silk, way too shiny for a setting powder. Like, this is way too shiny. This is like a highlighter. In fact, I'm going to apply it like a highlighter. Before, after. See, so this would be a beautiful powder for people who want a very soft, like not their highlighter. See how that gave me some radiance? But I would not put this all over the face, especially if you have enlarged pores or anything like that. This is going to exaggerate everything. I would not recommend this as a setting powder. This to me would probably be more like the ambient lighting palette from Hourglass. Just know you're going to get quite a bit of radiance. I wouldn't buy this thinking that this is going to be just a traditional setting powder, right? This has a lot of radiance to it. So you're going to want to love Radiance in order to enjoy this. I don't think it's a bad product, but I don't think it's going to be for everyone. Gucci, on the other hand, I think the Gucci is absolutely stunning. So beautiful. In fact, I am going to, now that I've set everything, I'm going to go in with my little brush and just kind of go over top. And what I like about this is that this just gives like a beautiful radiant, but so soft. So for example, the one from Armani is a little bit more of like a highlighter radiant. This is a very small radiance to where you couldn't wear it as a highlighter. I could wear the Luminous Silk as a highlighter. This one, I couldn't. But you can see, compared to this side, so I haven't added any here, right? So you can see that this is the shine is down, but I still have the radiance. This, I have shine and radiance, right? But this gives me that smooth effect, but I also maintained the radiance. This is a beautiful powder. Beautiful powder. I mean, look at that. Those of you out there who like the Dior Backstage powder, see, I prefer this powder over the Dior Backstage for many reasons. The Dior Backstage is like a no powder powder, right? So it works good, but for me, it's too neutral. It's too gray. The neutral is so gray on me, I can't wear that powder. I'm actually going to send that to my friend Gabe, but can't wear the powder. But it is good for those who don't like a lot of powder, right? So for those who don't want to look like they're wearing powder, or for those that just, you know, the Charlotte Tilbury is a little bit too thick and dry, because I know the Charlotte Tilbury has a very thick texture. Even though it's so finely milled, it is a little bit thicker and a little bit more of a drier compact on the skin. This, on the other hand, this is like a no powder powder situation. Gives the skin a little bit of radiance, but it doesn't have a lot of tones to it like the Dior ones. I think that's my biggest complaint with the Dior powder, because I do think that the Dior Backstage face powders are good, but it's the tone, and the tones show up on the skin. This is absolutely stunning. Like a 5 out of a 5 out of a 5 out of a 5. And I love this. So I went ahead and finished my eye makeup. Let's move on to the Lippie. I got these two shades from Jimmy Choo. They both come in this huge box. This is called the Seduction collection. These are new shades. I have never in my life ever bought, I don't think, anything Jimmy Choo. These looked very interesting to me, and I kind of had a situation. I bought two shades, so I bought Tender Pink and Daring Pink. So they come in this really beautiful kind of faux leather pouch. I don't know if it's faux leather, but I'm assuming it is. And then this is the lipstick. Can we talk about bougie? Like, this is bougie, my friends. These are $65 each. They're very, very expensive. This is Daring Pink, and I was wearing this in a video recently. I think it was my Buyer Brows, I believe. Let me tell you something. I wore that lipstick all night. Ate with it. It faded, so like the shine faded throughout the night, but the lipstick was still there. This shade in particular. I probably wore it for 6 hours. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked. And I do believe that I put chapstick on sometime after I got done eating. So I can tell you that that shade in particular is extremely long wearing. Like, unbelievably long wearing. So, like I said, this is the shade Daring Pink. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. Look at that. Pigment, right? This is the shade I was wearing in that video. These are long lasting. Kind of just grabs onto your lip. So this reminds me of the Tom Ford formula, where it's just super creamy on the lip, and it looks very, has a shine to it, but very long lasting. So if you've got a lot of Tom Ford, I don't think that this is something that you necessarily need to run out and grab, unless you just want to be bougie as hell pulling this out of your purse, because this is the prettiest lipstick I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, this gold ball at the top, like, this is beautiful, you guys. Absolutely gorgeous. The color, I love the color of it. I don't think I'll buy any more because I don't need that expensive of a lipstick, but so beautiful. Now, I had a problem with the next shade, which is Tender Pink. So when I was trying them on, this one broke on me. So I had it out about this far and it broke down inside. So let me show you down inside see how it cracked. By the way, look at the embossing on that. But see how it cracked down on the inside of it? I was so bummed. But did you see the embossing? Let me show you on the one that's not broke. Look at the embossing on this. Look at that. These are fancy little lipsticks. Reached out to Jimmy Choo customer service. they immediately refunded my money. Like, I sent 2 pictures saying, hey, this was just delivered. And the second that I tried to apply it, you know, cracked. They did not come back with any bullshit. Because you know how some brands, they'll be like, did you have it out too far? Da da da. No, I kind of know how to apply lipstick. So they gave me no hassles. They immediately refunded my purchase and then said, do you want me to help you, you know, do another order? And I said, no. I did go ahead and reorder the shade Tender Pink because I do love the formula and I like this shade. So if I didn't like the formula and I didn't like the shade, I wouldn't have reordered it, but I really do love this shade. So this one is Tender Pink. It is beautiful. Very beautiful. They're so soft on the lip and they're just so beautiful. I love these. Do I think these are worth $65? Absolutely not, you guys. I mean, these are bougie and beautiful, and I mean, these are like luxury and it's heavy. Like, this ball on the end is heavy. Like, this is a heavy little component. So overall, you get the luxury experience. So when you're spending $65 on something, you're expecting a luxury experience, right? And you get it with this. Like, they bring it. The feeling of it, how it looks, how you hold it, the colors, the pigmentation, the longevity. Like, I can't find anything negative to say about these lipsticks. But you just have to decide if you want to spend $65 on a lipstick because they're pricey. Now, here's the thing. Do I need them in my collection? Hell no. But do I love them? And will I enjoy them and cherish them? Hell yes. So I feel like it all just depends on what you're wanting. You know, if you're wanting to spend that kind of money, I'm not encouraging you to, because truthfully, you got to make up your own decision. They are beautiful. And if you like buying luxury makeup for the experience, you will not be disappointed. But these are absolutely, unequivocally not necessary. I promise you, they're not necessary. I have so many lipsticks in my collection that I absolutely love. And, you know, Charlotte Tilbury has a great formula. They're like $38, $35, $38. These are very beautiful, but you do pay a hefty price for the experience, and you pay a hefty price for this fancy packaging. Okay, so that's it for the application portion of the video. Let's go ahead and jump into the swatches. And then of course we will get into my final thoughts. So I will see you guys then. Let's go ahead and jump into my final thoughts about all the products I used in today's video. Let's first start with the concealer. This is a really beautiful concealer. It's a little bit thicker, So for those of you out there who don't like a thicker concealer, you might not like this formula. I really love it. You just have to be careful with not applying too much because of the pump. I think that's my biggest complaint about this, is that the click puts out way too much. So just know that you can do a half click and you won't put out as much. But I showed you what the full click was so that you've seen how much concealer it was. But it is a very beautiful, very soft, kind of like a satin matte formula. It's not over hydrating. It's not too dry. It's kind of in the middle. And I think it's a very beautiful concealer. Let's talk about the Goss bronzers. So as you saw in the swatches, I don't have a lot of shades that would match the light gold. The light gold is the lightest. I don't wear that light of products, so it's very hard for me to show you comparisons of this bronzer combo next to other bronzers that I have in my collection. But I wanted to mention that these are 17.5 grams worth of product for both of them, which is quite a bit of product. These are made in the USA, so just FYI in case you guys were interested. But as you saw, this is beautiful. Like, I kind of want to feel like I could wear this as a highlighter. I don't know. But you saw in the swatches, it has a little bit of a golden undertone. Let's just go into it. Oh yeah, I could totally wear that as a highlighter. Look how beautiful that is. I could totally wear that as I was swatching it, I was like, wait, I could wear that as a highlighter because it does have that beautiful golden undertone and that sheen to it. But it's very soft, so I could totally wear that as a highlighter. Originally, I thought that this would be the palette I would wear, the satin bronze, but it's way, way, way gray on my warm skin. For contour, I wear either the Danessa Myricks in shade medium 2. Okay, that's Danessa. Or I wear the Tom Ford in Intensity 2. This is what I traditionally wear as contour. If I go into the dark palette, which is the deep copper in this contour, let me show you guys what this shade looks like next to those. So it still has a gray undertone. That, for me, is going to be very hard for me to wear. If you have a neutral undertone or a cool undertone, or maybe you're not as warm as I am, if you have cooler contours, then this shade will totally work for you. It just all depends on your undertone, right? Even though I don't prefer a powder contour, these blend really easily, and they're very, very soft and very buildable, like extremely buildable. So that was the one thing that I liked about it, is I felt like I had control. And there's a lot of powder contours that I don't have control over. And that might be the reason why I steer clear of them, because I don't want it to be too much. I don't like the sharp, chiseled face, right? So like, a lot of people really love to have a chiseled, sharp, angled, and you like the dimension. I liked mine to be just a little bit on the softer side. So it all depends on how you like to apply makeup and what you prefer. And I don't know that I'll ever reach the time that powder contour will be comfortable for me. But this formula has a texture about it. Texture reminds me of the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. So you know how smooth it is when you put your finger down in there? That's what this reminds me of. The textures of all of the bronzer and the contour have this similar effect as the bronzer from Charlotte Tilbury. So if you're familiar with that formula and you know how it blends and you know how it applies, then you will love the formula on these bronzers and contours. It all just depends on the undertone, if you can handle the more gray base contours, and if you like powder contour. Now the bronzers, I love that he put some Radiance in there, because when you're using a contour, it's always really fun to kind of go over it with a bronzer that's a little bit more radiant, or even if it's not radiant, it has a sheen to it. Somewhat like the Gucci bronzer. When you apply this bronzer, even though it doesn't have a radiance to it, it's got a beautiful shine to it that almost mimics a radiance, right? So the bronzers, the formula is just, it's there. The thing that I will say, these are very buildable. And yes, it would have been nice to have 4 palettes, but he is a new brand. He is self-funded. So it's understandable that a self-funded kind of indie brand, because Goss is an indie brand, even though we all know him, he's still an indie brand, meaning that he has no investors you know, given him all this money to make all this makeup. So he's an indie brand. And so he is creating these products all self-funded and trying to stay out of debt, which is extremely incredible, because the worst thing you ever want to do is start a business and be in massive amounts of debt, right? So I think it's nice that he's taken the money that he's making and he's using that money to create more products versus just going into massive debt from the beginning. I do think for those who have a tan or dark skin, obviously maybe not deep, but those who have tan to dark skin, you're going to be able to use this. It is a very beautiful formula that is able to be built on top of itself without getting muddy. These can be applied very lightly, or they can be applied with a denser brush to build the pigment. So, okay, the blush palette, so beautiful. It's a lot of pigment, I know. She's strong. Go in very gently with her. As I was swatching them, I don't have any of these shades in my collection. Like, they're so bright and just really unique. And that's weird to say when it comes to blushes, but for my collection personally, I just don't have anything like this. So I really, really love the shades, and I think they're so beautiful. I love that palette. I do. So yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about that palette. Let's talk about the Gucci powder. So as you can see, I am reflecting off of these lights. So I have a shine to my skin. Typically, I don't have this much radiance on camera. Normally, I will use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder to soften this area up so I'm not really reflecting off of these beauty lights. But in real life, you don't need to worry about that, right? You're not sitting in front of all these lights where everything is just reflecting like crazy. This is a beautiful powder, you guys. I feel like I would use these together. I don't feel like this powder from Gucci will control oils, right? I feel like to control oils and shine, I feel like the Charlotte Tilbury is going to come through on that. But to give you such a beautiful radiance to your skin, this is it. I love that powder. But if you don't want any radiance, I wouldn't get it. So if you like more of a matter finish, I wouldn't get that powder because it does have a radiance to it. Let me put Charlotte Tilbury on this side. So see how this side is like radiant, and there's a difference between oily and radiance. I'm not oily, I'm just radiant. So this Charlotte Tilbury kind of mattifies things and I'm not reflecting off the lights as much. But on this side, I've got a lot of reflection. But on the flip side of that, this is done in such a soft, radiant way where it doesn't have any glitter in it. It doesn't have any like shimmery situation going on, but that it doesn't emphasize the pores or the texture. So it's done in a very, very soft way. So good. Giorgio Armani, don't use this for powder. I just can't see putting this all over my face as a setting powder. Unless you want every texture, every pore, every situation you have on your face emphasized, I just would not use this as setting powder. It's a pretty highlighter, but I would not use it as a setting powder. I'm kind of surprised that they are marketing it as a setting powder. And as I read some of the reviews on the Sephora website, I seen that everybody was kind of having the same situation I was, going, why are you using this glow powder as a setting powder? It's almost like the Radiant Bronze Light palette from Hourglass. I would never call this a setting powder. This is a radiant powder that's going to give you radiance. This is what you use to like finish it off, right? So like you've already used a good setting powder, you've already used a finishing powder, and then this is like your radiance powder that kind of gives the radiance. Okay, the lipsticks. I love this lipsticks. I think you guys already know how I feel about the lipsticks. We already went over that. So I'm sorry for the length of the video. When you're talking about all of these products and you're trying to give as much information as you possibly can, it's always very important for me to give you so much information so that you can be a very educated buyer. I don't want you guys wasting your hard-earned money on makeup. So I always feel bad when these videos are longer, but in order for me to be thorough, they gotta be long, you know? I gotta be able to have enough time to share my thoughts. So that's it for the video. Sound off down below in the comments section. Let us know how you guys are feeling about the products that I discussed in today's video. Thank you again to Beautylish and Goss for sending over these bronzers and allowing me to show them on my channel. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.